Great.
Okay, our next speaker is from Zippo, Nara. I'm not going to attempt to say his last name. He's the vice president of service delivery at Zippo. He has a team of 450 plus professionals that provide scientific informatics services to over 50 plus global customers. He specializes in lab informatics, data engineering, cloud and high-performance computing for scientific applications, automation, and master data setup for LIMS. Part of what we heard in the last talk from Chetan, that technology is one of the sections that Nara is going to be focusing in among others. So without further ado, Nara will be talking about AI ML in action. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. So, AI and ML, we've probably been hearing about it for the last couple of years. So we've been doing a lot of experiments on this topic. So I just thought we'll probably share a few use cases that we've had meaningful impact with, right? So there are a lot of others that we could not really crack, but there are a few where we felt we did make progress and it's being used by some of our customers. So we thought we'll just go through them and then we're happy to answer any questions that can come our way. So the first one is about GenAI-based master data management. Okay, so again, there's a history to this. I think most of you would be familiar with master data setups with LIMS applications. Typically what happens is a product manager comes in and then says, you know what, this is the template. As soon as you get the data into this template, we can import the data, right? And we've seen multiple customers make the mistake of not estimating this process, right? So once they start the work, they figure out that it's going to take years to get the data into that Excel format, right? And that's when one such instance was when we were actually summoned to help with the customer to basically get the data into that Excel. And that's when we started this process of, you know, what can we automate this, right? So what are the challenges when we looked at it? So you had multiple documents from which to look at these data points. You have the certificate of analysis, the analysis results, the SOPs, STPs, GDPs, product specifications, worksheets, and whatnot, right? And then again, it could be a Word document, it could be a PDF, it could be a scanned image. Right? Say, especially if a site has gone through a merger or an acquisition, you have a scanned image and you don't really have the source document with you. And sometimes it's Excels and PPTs as well, right? And it's not just one or two elements we are talking about. There are multiple data elements that we'll have to capture. And say some of the companies that I've interacted with, they have this compound and market combination that gets called as products. And typically it's in the order of tens of thousands. The one such customer that we're working with has got 28,000 products. Or another customer that we worked with, they said 13,000 products. If you go in deeper, it's basically 89 compounds, but that's getting exported to a lot of countries with different strengths and all that, right? So, and what we found was typically the effort that was taken for setting up one such product was anywhere between 24 to 40 hours, right? And we've always seen customers work with, say, 30-member teams, 50-member teams over multiple years, and then doing priority products and somehow getting in what is required to go live, right? So that's typically been the state of affairs. And of course, this being in the GXP world, you always have to contend with tight timelines, compliance, and all that, right? So when we saw this, I think back in 2018 is when we had our first tryst with one such project. And we created something in an Excel macro, which would be able to go read these documents and get the data out and all that. So what we wanted to do was read data directly from the documents and create what we call as an RPA specification document. And this document is actually a guided document, right? So when a person reviews this document, they don't have to go and review every single cell on it. Right? So it will automatically highlight things that could actually be wrong. Right? And people can basically review this, and it will also tell you whether it is appropriately updated, and that is coming at the top of the document. And after this, when they upload it back, we have something called as an object creation engine, which takes the data from here and creates them automatically in the target LIMS system with the appropriate audit trail, right? So that's how we started. The first customer we went to, at that time, we did not know that they were a very good customer because they had very good documents. So they had 13,000 products, but if you look at the documents, they had only 11 different types, right? So, and we were able to get by just doing automation, and it worked like this. We were able to validate, everything was good, right? The next customer we went to, they said, I've got every single detail on paper to be on the system, right? So that's when fun started. So it was no longer the same easy stuff. So we had to come up with a different approach altogether. And thanks to GenAI, we found a way out, right? So in this case, we basically had some sort of a model built to be able to get the data out of these documents and then get it to the format that LIMS can comprehend. And when we started doing this, when we gave the entire document, we found that the accuracy was not great, right? So we wanted to solve this problem. So we got in something called as an annotation before that. So basically people sit and mark areas in the document to begin with, saying, you know what, this is the test, this is the procedure, this is the calculation. That way, we were able to increase the efficiency and the accuracy of the output greatly. Right? And then, again, we can't really be doing this for 13,000 documents, right? So when we do it for one document of a type, the system can automatically do it for the rest of the documents if it's of the same kind, right? So that's how we started. And what the GenAI component does is basically take a paragraph. We'll be able to identify what is the chemical compound there, what is the sample, what is the quantity, what is the action being taken on the sample, right? What is the unit, what is the measure, what is the instrument being used, and it tags them, right? So once it does that, we'll be able to convert that to a format that a LIMS can comprehend. So we have created a catalog library of what are going to be the components for an action, right? So if it's weighing, it can only be net weight, tare weight, gross weight, nothing beyond that, right? So we have a library that's been created. So the idea is to identify the tag and then get the catalog item based on the library that we have created, right? So that's what we did. And then after that, we transform it based on the target LIMS system. And finally, the upload happens, right? So I'm just walking you through the process here. So this is the annotation tool that we created where you can really mark segments in the document, right? And now once this is done, this is the output from the GenAI tool, right? So the content that you see on the leftmost part is something from the document. The output is actually the third column. You see tags there. It says action is this, sample is this, chemical is this, standard is this, and all that, right? And after that, we have this library, right? So this will basically tell me what are all the different components that needs to be there for each action, right? And we have people who basically can map it, and we are now able to automatically map it based on the actions, and people can come in and correct it if it's not accurate. And the mapping happens, and finally, the guided Excel document comes out, right? So here, it'll have the validation on top. It'll tell you if it's appropriate or not. People can review this and then can upload this document back into the system. Right? So that's how this whole tool works. And with this, what we were able to see is, right, so we are using a combination of GenAI and NLP to be able to read some of these complex documents and get the data out. Right? Again, we've seen an effort saving of at least 40%, right? So if the document is good, it can go up. But at least when we have had some bad documents, when I say bad documents, the document per se is not bad, but you're not able to get repeatability, right? So that's when it's bad. So another saving that we've been able to bring about is thanks to our unique positioning, right? So the people from Zippo are able to kind of understand the tests, understand the documents. In a typical scenario, what happens is the customer's team basically sits and fills the Excel, right? So a lot of our customers have to create side teams from their QC labs to be able to read and create these Excel documents. But in our case, one, we use the tool. Two, our people will be able to review it and fine-tune anything that's not appropriate. And then when we send this to them, they can basically review it and close it, right? So what it means for a customer is in a big site, right? So I've seen customers have 10-member teams to do this. In our case, it can just be 3-member teams from their side. Right? So that's the impact. So it's not just effort saving, it's also about the level of involvement from the sites can go down by a big way when they do this. Yeah, and of course, when you use a tool, even the error is predictable. So mistakes can happen, but you know what is going to happen, right? So you can be prepared for it. So this is something that we felt, we have kind of completed this project at 3 customers. It's currently ongoing at 3 customers. So we've kind of had a chance to fine tune this offering a little bit. So the way we do this is offer it as more as a service. This is not a tool that is deployed. It is more like you give it to us, this is how we do it, and because of that, you are able to do it faster and better, right? So that's how we do it. Yeah. So the other use case, I think Chetan also mentioned it. So here again, we use the same concept to understand and decipher certificate of analysis documents that come from external supply manufacturing. And we are able to, again, set up data automatically in the LIMS system based on this. Another interesting area that we've been able to crack is the handwritten data documents. Chetan already talked about it, so I'm going to probably cover a few details that we have pursued after that. So to start with, we basically took the document, we stratified it, we made use of AWS Textract to be able to get the data out. We achieved 85% accuracy based on that, but it was not able to do the GDP part that Sachin was talking about. Say, people typically write some data, they strike it out and add the new value. In AWS Textract, it will give you both the values. It will not be able to understand that I should not give the stuck out value, right? And then something as simple as dates, right? So when you know that it cannot be 7021, it has to be 2021. But the way people write it, 2 can be different from the other 2, even in the same syllable, right? So we've added a custom model on top of this to be able to address all these GDP issues, right? So, and with that, we were able to increase the accuracy percentage from 85 to 95. So what did we do this custom model? We picked the open source OCR, right? And then we trained it with 70,000 different handwritings, right? And we added a GDP layer on top of it to understand and decipher, if it's stuck out, don't read that, read this. If it's a date, it cannot be this. Those kind of logic has been implemented. So thanks to this, the accuracy has kind of catapulted from 85 to 95 is a big deal, right? So on its own, we're also now working on, can we use this model alone, right? So currently, using this alone is not getting it there. So it's always used in combination with another model. So working on making this model the primary thing now. Yeah, so this is how the tool shows the data. So we just morphed some of the customer-related information there. So basically, the data is read, and you have a UI which can basically help you pick the value that you need to review. And the drop-down is barely visible there. So there are 2 values. The first value is from AWS Textract. The second value is from our model. Right? So that is where you'll be able to just pick. You don't have to go and write everything there. So if you don't like the first value, if you click the drop-down, our model will give you the other value. And more often than not, it is found to be accurate. Yeah. We had a similar request from another customer where they said, I've got a lot of batch records. Can you first digitize them? And this is the interesting part of it, right? So he also said, can you also give me some use cases, right? My CEO is asking me, do something with AI, right? So that's how this request came to us. So the first thing was we took those batch records, we digitized them, right? Using a combination of different models, different open source models and things like that, because this is an India customer. They can't really afford so much money, so we had to come with a different model for them, which will cost much less. And while doing that, after getting the data out, we were actually looking for opportunities where we can optimize the process a little further, right? So one such use case was there is vacuum being applied, drying being done, and the moisture being checked, right? So this is a process that's carried out in manufacturing of an API in that particular case. What we saw in those different documents were there were different iterations being performed, right? In one case, they're able to get to the moisture level that they want that's allowed in probably one iteration. But in another case, it takes 4 iterations, right? So, and then we got, say, 100 such documents from them. And we said, you know what, if you keep these values this way, you'll probably hit the jackpot the first time, right? So that is something that helps them probably fine tune the process better. So this is an example of the document, right? So they have the vacuum being applied, what is the value, and then they're checking the moisture values and things. So all this is handwritten. So the first job was to get the data out. And second, after that, we applied these predictive analytics on top of it to be able to optimize the process, basically. And going a little further, right? So we also wanted to see whether we can have an impact on the yield, right? So we found that these are the parameters that can basically help them, play with the yield, right? So currently, we have come up with a model now. So this is something that's still not in production yet. So this is hot off the stove now. So we're going to talk to them. So this is basically toggling these parameters in such a way that you'll be able to get the best yield. So that's the thing that we're working on. Again, all the data points are from the manufacturing batch records. And the more the data, probably will be able to get to a certain point, and maybe after that it plateaus, right? So this is where we are. So just wanted to share these different use cases in this space, and these are the ones that we felt are probably getting us that questions. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a question around something I've been thinking about for a while. So can you, with how you've been able to tag and structure those protocols, the earlier speaker talked about not having a good data model, garbage in, garbage out, you can't make sense. But can you, with the way you parse it, are you actually able to take a document and build a data model based on the structure in the document and then use that data model then for subsequent kind of data analysis downstream? It seems like that you should be able to infer a data model effectively based on the document itself. Is that correct, or where's the gap in that logic?
Yeah, no, I think it's partly accurate what you said. So I think we started there when we just gave the document and we kind of created a model. We wanted it to look for specific things, right? So if you take the QC world, thankfully it is more standardized. So you can probably expect it to be only a finite number of ways different, right? So the model basically looks for certain things from the statement. And then we've kind of been iterating over it to see, can you add this also? Can you add this also? And this is how it is. So we kind of divided into non-CDS and CDS. Non-CDS was much easier. CDS is difficult. I wouldn't say we have cracked 100% of CDS yet, right? While doing that, I think one of the things that we tried to do was, instead of giving the entire document, if we can say, look at this part alone, focus here, that helped us nail this better. Right? So I think that's what we tried to. Initially, we did not have that. So the accuracy levels were lesser. So because we are offering it as a service, whatever comes out of the tool, we take it, we actually work on it manually to kind of make it complete. That's how the process started. And as we have done more and more such documents, this intelligence of, can you add this? Can you do this also? Can this be added to the model? Has helped us make it better. So we are almost at a point where we can say it can actually be applied. The model can be applied because now we are able to do this slightly more easier for CFA when compared to the specification documents. All right. Okay.
Hello. I'm just curious, in a GXP or even in a non-GXP environment, are we going to start seeing a shift in SOPs and even maybe assay protocols? Step 4, run ChatGPT, stuff like that. Are SOPs and all starting to change with the new technology that's coming in?
Yeah, as we speak, I also know of a company that probably is trying to do that. Are you in any way connected to QB Division? No, okay. Okay. No, I should not be talking that to you then. That is a company that I've seen where they're trying to probably get away from the documents, try to make everything systematic, right? I have 2 points of view on this. I think more and more with OpenAI kind of a model coming in, the data can probably be without models because you don't have to do all that because it's somehow able to decipher it. So that's one point of view. The other point of view is whenever we do such projects, we also go back to our customers and say, you know what, if you have it documented this way, it's going to make your life easier. So we do both. Right? So I'm thinking we don't have to do that anymore. That's my personal opinion, though.
Yeah, that should be. Is it on? Okay. Yeah. To his point earlier, the data model can be created, but it won't be a standard data model. So you can take the extraction of the data and then put it into a specific data model, but that will be too specific to the general one that you want. And then there will be more time invested in getting to that level. You can definitely get a data model out of this extraction, but that will not be what you want.
But you could start.
You could start with it. Yes, exactly. Correct. Yep.
They may not work.
Yes.
Variation.
So then we are talking about data model 1, 2, 3, 4 plus a master data model. So possible, yes. So we are actually looking in that space.
Document.
And then create.
And then say, build the data model.
Yeah.
And you say, and now
Yes. Yes.
prompt engineer
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Correct.
structured.
Yeah. So we tried that with US Pharmacopoeia. Yeah. So that is pretty decent. But when you actually go to the customer, you always find something is different between what is there in Pharmacopoeia and what is there in the documents.
I mean, it should be able to handle.
Yeah. Some variations, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Becomes
Correct. Yeah.
cells, it becomes cell, becomes something else. But they
Correct.
all have synonyms.
Yeah.
You manage,
Correct.
like it should be able to generalize it.
Yeah. So the only difficulty there is some customers want all the procedures to be there in the system. That's when trouble starts, right? So if you have to just get the final results out, it works like that. But you want interim results, you want all the procedures to be captured. That's when it's getting tricky.
So you extensively worked on customer documents and then just built the model, right, to accomplish. I understand that was the requirement and their process in place. So testing equipment, for example, in QC labs and some other areas, how do you see the integration of IoT? Yeah, can we directly just like read data and transfer those to LIMS? If they want to record data, on paperwork, it's up to them. Yeah, but I highly suggest the electronic ones.
Yeah, again, that has actually been a journey on its own. So parallelly, we've been working on that part also, where you connect to the instrument, get the data out, and then you kind of flow it back to a LIMS or a ELN or get it to a data lake. That's been a journey on its own. Again, the recent thought process is maybe the data need not be structured. With the recent changes that's happening, pretty quickly, at least till a year back, we've spent a lot of effort in trying to convert the data to a format for ADF and all that. So we've been someone who's kind of associated with ADF for quite some time now. So in one of our early customers, we took the data, we converted to the ADF format, and then we said, maybe JSON, right? So that is where we were. But now we are probably thinking, don't worry about the data. If you're able to get it to some format, maybe all these models, LLM models can probably help you that. So that is another thing that we're working on now. Maybe in 2 months' time, I can tell you whether it's successful or not. Thank you.